Welcome, everybody. It is June 9th, 2020, and another, excuse me, wow, pardon me, I don't have coronavirus, don't worry, I think I drank water way too fast. Another pandemic pop-up, quarantine edition. I hope we're going to get in our studios very, very soon. We're really hoping so, but a good afternoon to everybody. Let me say hello to LaToya, his Forever Peterson, and believe it or not, I think LaToya, second day in a row with the first comment on Facebook. Squad up, LaToya. Nezzy wants more. Haven't seen you in a while, Nezzy. Hello to the squad. Christy Bennett, Karen McCarthy, squad up. Deshiba Buchanan saying, good morning, everyone. What up? Deshiba, where are you in this world that it is morning? Almost everybody is either in the afternoon or the evening. I don't know, rarely, I guess there's somebody's having a morning somewhere, but everyone I know is either evening or late afternoon. But good morning. Just tell me where you are. Tamika Nelson, how are you? Shami Kelman saying hello. Earth Angel Keisha. Earth Angel. Sounds beautiful, Earth Angel. I like Earth Angel. Squad up, Uncle Brad. Asila Enotz, how are you? Karen McCarthy, I think I said hello. Forrest Mushy, squad up, Forrest, how are you? Simon Wolford, squad up. Marcella Reed, Carol Anderson the Tiger, squad up to my favorite lawyer, Brad Hunt. Thank you. Marcella Reed, I think I said. Dion Reed, I did not say. Rosalie Messam, squad up with a fist pump. And Sherry Bushy Forster, all saying squad up. It is close to midnight where Sherry is. I guess they must be in Europe somewhere, Sherry. I presume maybe in London. And on YouTube, Fiano Campbell, squad up. Alicia Henry, squad up. Brad and his team. Carol Anderson, the Tigress. 2 Anderson, double fisting. Tia Persaud. Hello, Uncle Brad and squad team. Good afternoon. Tracy Lacey. How are you? Donald Horton. What's up, Donald? Okay, God bless. Cindy Albert saying hello. And Garfield Smith, how are you? 29 Super C. Mr. A Shaker. MJ with a question. We'll get to MJ in about 5 seconds. Balaji Muhammad, squad up. 29 Super C. Yeah, let's answer MJ's question right now. Fiano Campbell is also double fisting. Thank you very much, Fiano. MJ with a question says, hi, Brad and squad. Maybe this is a question for the squad. My cousin is currently under TPS. She was adopted in Haiti at 3 years old and lived in the U.S. all her life. She's now 25. How can she go about getting a green card? I assume he was saying hello to Brad and squad, but the question is for me. It depends who adopted the cousin. Was it U.S. citizen? Was it U.S. citizens who adopted the cousin? Was it people who live in Haiti and they've never been to America who adopted the cousin? Give me a little more information on what happened with the cousin and the adoption. And also I need to know, she's been living in the U.S. her whole life. How did she come to the United States? Was she adopted? Was she in the United States when she was 3 and she was adopted? Now, at what age was she adopted? I need to know a lot more. That's not a simple thing. I just got adopted, and how do I get my green card? I'm 25. All right, with that being said, I do have to give a couple of quick announcements. And announcement number 1, which everybody knows, that if you follow me on @BradShowLive, we will be having our free consultation giveaway tomorrow. You will have less than 24 hours to get in on the free consultation. You got to find Bouncing Brad. Tomorrow I'm going to be pulling the name of the winner of the free immigration consultation out of my scratchy old hat. It is a value of $200, but you have to enter the contest. How do you enter, you may ask? If you haven't been watching, you may not know. You have to go to Brad Show Live on Instagram, not on Facebook or YouTube, what you're watching right now, but on Instagram. You got to follow @Brad Show Live. You have to find Bouncing Brad, like Bouncing Brad, and tag 5 of your friends on the post of Bouncing Brad. You'll see me bouncing right there with the American flag. If you do that, you will be put into my scratchy old hat. I may pick you out of my hat for the free consultation. If you tag 10 of your friends, you'll be put in twice. If you tag 15 friends, you'll be put in 3 times. If you tag 20 friends, you will be put in 4 times. Also, the way this works right now, pandemic quarantine edition, I can only answer your questions through social media check-in. I cannot answer through the telephone. Once we get back into our studio, we will be able to answer by telephone. Hopefully, that will be sometime over the next few weeks. Hopefully, certainly by the end of June. We will be back in studio, and I hopefully will be able to answer your questions live in a regular Brad Show live show rather than as a pandemic pop-up. And but right now, all you can do is leave your immigration questions in the comments section. If you leave your immigration questions in the comment section, I will be glad to answer them. If for whatever reason I don't answer the question, ask again. If you've asked multiple times and I still haven't answered, then you could always follow me at Real Brad Bernstein on Instagram. That's a different Instagram account. That's my personal Instagram account. You can follow me there. Drop me a DM. I'll try to answer the question there in my DM. That's the best way to reach me. Just drop me a DM at Real Brad Bernstein on Instagram. Also, if you like our show, you love our show, you love me, you love the squad, you like the squad a lot, you like me a lot, there's somewhere between love and like. If it's anywhere in there, you wanna subscribe on YouTube. That way you get notified every time we come live, and you subscribe, and you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And of course, if you follow us on Facebook, you want to like and follow us. Also, you'll get a ding every time we come live. You'll never miss a show. Finally, if you do want to reach me for a immigration consultation, you'll see my telephone number scrolling at the bottom during the entire show. You can call. You can get on my list. If you get on my list, I will call you tomorrow or Friday or Monday or Tuesday or Saturday or whatever day you schedule. You're going to get a call from me, but you got to get on my list to do it. And you just see below at the bottom of the screen of your screen, you can see our telephone number, and you can call to have a consultation with us. Let's see quickly if there's any other quick immigration questions I can answer before I get into schmoozing. Anita Nelson on Facebook has a question quickly. She said, after her Stokes interview, it's been now 4 months, no decision. Although the officer told us he cannot make a decision, he will bring the case to a supervisor. If there's a need for him to investigate, please advise. When the officer says they're bringing the case to the supervisor, that means they can't approve your case. They are not satisfied that you passed your interview. So it then goes to a supervisor. They may do an investigation, or they may just send you a denial letter. It's never good when the case has to go to a supervisor. Unfortunately for you, you may want to have a consultation with me. Jerry Mia also has a quick question, Uncle Brad. I'm petitioning my mother. I'm a U.S. citizen. I did our RFE, but the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines still closed. What do you think can happen? I don't know what's going to happen. We got to wait for the U.S. Embassy to open. Until the U.S. Embassy opens, there's nothing that anybody can do. Right now, there's nobody to speak to. There's no immigration until this coronavirus gets under control. So hang in there. Hang in there. Wendy Cato, you can leave. Love you, Brad Squad. Could I leave my message in the DM? It's a long story, and I need help with an immigration status. Yes, just follow me, Wendy Cato, on Instagram at Real Brad Bernstein, and you can drop your long story in my DM. I'll try to help you as best as I can. One last question before we get into our schmooze. Pradeep Ram with a question. This is a long one, Pradeep. I'm trying to do quick questions before we get into schmooze. Uncle Brad, I have 2 questions. I'd filed for VAWA case. My current EAD is expired and not working since October 2019. My social security number card states valid for work. Can I legally work with New York City and the social security number? Can I apply for pandemic unemployment? If you have a social security number, you can apply for unemployment. The worst they'll say is no. Can you legally work? You're not legally working without a valid work authorization. Will it prevent you from getting a green card if you are not legal? If you work illegally, not if you're married to an American citizen, it wouldn't. And Michael McKenzie with a quick question on Facebook before we get into our schmooze. Hi, Uncle Brad. How are you? Doing quick question. Do I have to send in my medical report before my interview? No, you can bring your medical to the interview. Let me not leave out YouTube. Quick question on YouTube by Matacella Ramkrishna. Hi, Brad. I came on an F1 visa in 2015. Last visa expired last year. My I-360 got approved last month. I got my new AAD with category C31. My I-45 is still pending. I have I-131. Is it safe to travel? Yes, it is safe to travel. Just don't get coronavirus. Ashley Attinger, in my husband's case and background investigation since March 2019. We have a child together. What's up? It sounds like they're violating your husband's rights. Sounds like you need a consultation. That's what's up. And finally, Rupan Thakador, my friend driving a taxi in New York. His wife is waiting for an interview abroad, affected with the 60-day ban. If my cousin liked to get a visit visa to USA and back before his wife interview, will it affect the spouse visa? Yes, they're not going to give him a visa because A, the embassies are closed. B, you can't travel to America. C, you already showed an immigrant intent. So you're not going to get it. Tia Prasad, quickly. Uncle Brad, I got an approved notice for a combo card in the mail over a month, but no combo card as yet. It's been over a month. It's been approved. How long should I wait? I would call immigration and see what happened, if it was mailed out or not yet, simply because you should have gotten it already. If you still have a problem, give us a call. And now we will get back to more social media questions after my schmooze. I promise you. We're also going to have David Moreno. He's in our waiting room standing by. David Moreno, a partner civil rights lawyer at Spar and Bernstein, to talk about the protests and police brutality, excessive use of force by the police, racial profiling by the police, and what to do if you get caught up in that stuff. And we'll have David Moreno with us in a few minutes. But right now, we got to get to something that we like to call here on Brad Show Live, Schmoozing with Brad. All right, so today, the death of George Floyd energized a movement, and today he was buried in Houston. The service took place at Fountain of Praise Church in Houston and comes with 5 days of public memorials in Minneapolis, North Carolina, as well as Houston, and just 2 weeks after, and all of this just 2 weeks after a Minneapolis police officer killed George Floyd on video by kneeling on his neck. Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy at George Floyd's funeral and led the family into the Fountain of Praise Church in Houston. Joe Biden offered condolences to the grieving family of George Floyd during a taped emotional address played at his funeral. This is what Biden had to say.
When there is justice for George Floyd, we will truly be on our way to racial justice in America.
Now, also at George Floyd's funeral, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, actors Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx, all in attendance. Now, 3 days after Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin and Chief of Police Carmen Best instituted a 30-day ban on the use of tear gas against protesters in Seattle, well, 3 days after that ban, the police once again used tear gas on a Sunday night protest. After midnight on Sunday night, sometime Monday morning, the Seattle Police Department tweeted, CS gas, which I guess is the tear gas, has been authorized in the interest of public and life safety. Leave the area now. So it took them a total of 3 days to break their promise. Footage of the protests around midnight shows gas filling the Seattle streets and protesters running while the sounds of explosions from flashbangs continue for at least 20 minutes. It looks like a war zone going on there in the streets of Seattle. The Trump administration was heavily criticized last week for using tear gas to move protesters, if you remember, in front of the gates of the White House, so Trump could take a walk and take a picture holding up the Bible backwards. Now, tear gas is dangerous, In Ohio last month, Sarah Grossman, a 22-year-old protester, she was killed at a protest against police brutality after being exposed to tear gas that the police shot into the crowd. So you can literally die from that. Now, meanwhile, in New York City, a police officer who shoved a protester who hit her head, well, he surrendered to face criminal charges on Tuesday. This is 11 days after he was recorded on video shoving a woman to the ground, calling her a bitch. And this was after she asked him why he told her to get out of the street. The victim suffered a concussion and a seizure. And there we just watched what happened. Now, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office charged the officer, Vincent D'Andrea, in a criminal complaint with misdemeanor assault, criminal mischief, harassment, and menacing over the May 29th incident. Now, what do all of this have in common? It's people are taking videos. We see they're showing what's going on to the world. You know, the iPhone, it changed the way we communicate. It changed the way we listen to music. It changed the way we watch television. And now I believe the iPhone is going to be the tool in which we change the world, where we bring to the world the abuses by the police, the racial profiling by the police. And here is another example. We're seeing it every day. Yesterday, Democrats unveiled what could be the most sweeping overhaul of federal policing laws in decades. It's called the Justice and Policing Act of 2020. It is meant to reform the roughly 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States. There are 18,000 different law enforcement agencies in the United States of America. That is a lot of different law enforcement agencies, even in a country with 300 million people. Now, before introducing it, some Democrats and members of the Congressional Black Caucus knelt. They held a moment of silence for the 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That was the exact time. Now fired police officer Derek Chauvin held his knee on George Floyd's neck. Now, the legislation would ban police chokeholds, prohibit no-knock warrants in drug cases like the one that was used when Breonna Taylor was killed in Lexington, Kentucky. The bill would also create a registry to track records of officers' misconduct, discipline, and termination. We don't know who the bad cops are, and we don't even know if a cop gets a complaint against him. For example, I think Chauvin had 19 complaints against him, 19 disciplinary complaints. Nobody knew about it. Now, House Democrats also want to lower the standards for qualified immunity, which broadly protects officers from civil lawsuits. And also give the Department of Justice more powers to investigate police misconduct. And for the first time ever, lynching would be made a federal crime. You can't believe that in 2020, lynching is not a federal crime. Now, while House Democrats hope to pass the bill by the end of this month, we don't know what is going to happen in the GOP-led Senate. So we'll see if that ever goes to pass. Now, in New York, legislative leaders on Monday began to approve an expansive package of bills targeting police misconduct. The measures range from a ban on the use of chokeholds to the repeal of an obscure decades-old statute that hides the disciplinary records of police officers. The legislation marks one of the most substantial policy changes to result from nearly 2 weeks of national unrest. The proposals signify a turning point in Albany because these proposals have been debated for years and never passed. And now, at least certainly in New York, we're going to get we're going to pass legislation that bans the use of chokeholds. We're going to pass legislation that now we can see the disciplinary records of every police officer. And it is certainly not the end, but it is at least certainly a start. Now, according to a new Washington Post poll, Americans are overwhelmingly support the nationwide protests that have taken place since the killing of George Floyd. President Trump has received negative marks, no surprise, for his handling of the protests. 61% say they disapprove of the way he's handling the protests. Only 35% say they approve. I don't know where these 35% people are, where 1 out of 3 Americans can say they can approve of what Trump is doing. But at least 66% of Americans or 61% of Americans are giving him a negative mark. 47% are giving him a vehemently negative remark, saying they strongly disapprove of the way Trump is handling this. Now, what's most interesting is not that, people don't like what Trump is doing. It's not a shock. What's most interesting is the shift in opinions from 6 years ago, when police killed an unarmed black man in Ferguson, Missouri, and in New York with the chokehold, what people's opinions were 6 years ago to today. 6 years ago, only 43% of Americans described the deaths of two black men by the police, both unarmed, as indicative of a broader problem in policing, while 51% saw them as an isolated incident. So basically, 50% of America said it's an isolated incident, and only 43% described it as a big problem. This is indicative of a bigger problem. Only 4 out of 10 people said that 6 years ago. Well, today, 69%, more than 2 in 3 Americans, almost 7 out of every 10 people, say the killing of George Floyd represents a broader problem with law enforcement. So this is a big turning point in America. When people say they feel things are different, it's different not only because the size of the protests, it's different because the attitude of Americans have changed in the last 6 years. We are seeing a broad majority of people, almost 7 out of every 10 people, saying there is a big problem with law enforcement in America as they profile young black men. That, to me, besides, of course, these big protests, that to me really shows why people are saying, I feel this time it's a little different. Now, you may remember at the height of the protests, there was a night on Monday night that Donald Trump, it was reported, went into a bunker in the White House, and he came out the next day and said, I didn't go into any bunker in the White House. I just went to go inspect. I wasn't scared. We had lots of people there to protect me. Well, Porky, Attorney General Barr, he said on an interview with Fox News yesterday, that's not necessarily true, pumpkin guy. He said things were so bad that the Secret Service recommended the president go down to the bunker. We can't have that in our country. So Attorney General William Barr said Trump went into the bunker because the Secret Service was scared for Trump's life being in that White House. Now, as the protests over police brutality and the killing of George Floyd ramped up, and as it appears that Donald Trump went into his bunker for fear of his life on that Monday night, the Trump administration finally did get their fence, except it's a fence around the White House. It is a fortified area of 1.7 miles of mesh metal fencing and police guards that are now surrounding the White House. The Secret Service said last week the entire area, in fact, around the White House complex would remain closed until June 10th. Now, while the closest the public can get to the White House is about 600 feet away, the fence around the People's House is being reclaimed by people again as they post art and signs. Kai Gamania hung a painting featuring his take on the raised fists widely associated with the Black Panther Party. In the piece, the fist is flanked by a crown on one side and a pyramid on the other. Gramaya, who is a surgical technician, also participated in Sunday's protest and said the fence was much emptier then. He was moved to see it fill up with work so quickly and said the barrier itself had become part of the demonstrations. Said Gamania, it's like the whole nation is crying and this whole fence is crying. And if you were to back up and see it from the beginning to the end, It's nothing but posters from all the way down. Now, attorneys in Minneapolis, there were 4 cops who've been arrested now in the death of George Floyd. They all appeared in court yesterday for the first time in Hennepin County. Now, lawyers for J. Alexander Kung and Thomas Lane, they argued that their clients tried to stop Officer Derek Chauvin from kneeling on Floyd's neck, but were ignored. I didn't see that on the video at all, but that's what they're claiming. Kung, Lane, and Tao face charges of felony aiding and abetting. We talked about this yesterday with David Moreno. If they are found guilty of aiding in the second-degree murder of George Floyd, they will get the same amount of time as Derek Chauvin, or potentially could get it up to 40 years in prison. They're being held on a $750,000 bond. Now, we'll see what happens with all of that. What was very interesting was on Friday, the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, he said that we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encouraging all to speak out and peacefully protest. If you remember, for the last couple of years, it started with Colin Kaepernick back in 2016. He was kneeling during the Star-Spangled Banner at every NFL game. He was finally kicked out of the NFL for causing what was a social discourse amongst NFL players. Many started to kneel. People said that was disrespectful to the flag. It was disrespectful to our Star-Spangled Banner. And for years, we've been talking about this on Bradshaw Live, well before George Floyd. And it had nothing to do with the flag. It had nothing to do with the Star-Spangled Banner. As far as I'm concerned, the flag is just a symbol. It doesn't mean anything. What they were doing was they were saying it is not right what is going on with policing of black men and the black community in America. And the NFL eventually made all of their players stand. There was a big backlash against them because the NFL says, you know what, we're in the business of making money. We're not in the business of social protesting. And then they started doing some PSA commercials with the players to highlight inequality and racial discrimination by the police. But they really made the players stop kneeling, and they basically ruined Colin Kaepernick's career. He was kicked out of the NFL. No NFL team wanted him. They felt he was way too controversial. But it turns out that, in the NFL, most of their employees are black. Most of the players are black. And they have to understand and empathize with their employees and stand with their employees. It's these players who are making the NFL the money. So now, 4 years later, Roger Goodell came full circle. The statement made in a video over Twitter came a day after nearly 20 players called on the NFL to take a stronger stance. Said in the NFL statement, "We, the NFL, condemn racism and the systemic oppression of black people. We, the NFL, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the NFL, believe Black Lives Matter." And it was when you say, I don't understand where the controversy of using the term Black Lives. I'm glad the NFL finally says we, the NFL, believe Black Lives Matter. I never understood the controversy of why it was controversial for anyone to argue Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. And just because you say Black Lives Matter doesn't mean somebody else's life doesn't matter. But we're saying Black Lives Matter, and to argue Black lives don't matter, Black lives matter less. Of course, Black lives matter. So I never understood. Even as a white person who's not black, I never understood where there was a controversy of using the term Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black lives matter. Now, the league statement makes no reference to the former San Francisco quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who has been the most visible protester within the NFL against police brutality, as we talked about. So we'll see. I believe Kaepernick will. I believe Kaepernick is going to eventually get a job with the NFL somewhere this year. Now, the issue was thrust back into the spotlight. This all started putting the NFL back into the spotlight when Drew Brees, and for those who don't follow the NFL, I'm a big NFL fan, love football. Drew Brees, who is one of the top quarterbacks, he's going to ultimately be in the NFL Hall of Fame when he retires. One of the top quarterbacks, holds lots of passing records, plays for the New Orleans Saints. He's a white quarterback, and he spoke up saying he didn't support players kneeling during the national anthem. He was talking about several years ago. And during an interview Wednesday, and this all started during an interview Wednesday with Yahoo Finance, where Drew Brees said that he will never agree, and I'm quoting Drew Brees, he would never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America. Now, Brees, as I said, he's white, discussed patriotism and referred to his grandfathers who fought in World War II. He also said standing for the national anthem with a hand over one's heart shows unity and shows we're all in this together. Now, the quarterback's comments drew swift and rapid condemnation. He apologized. It was certainly not something that was smart for him to say. Trump weighed in on the backlash, slamming Brees for apologizing. Trump said he should never have taken back his original stance on honoring our magnificent American flag. Oh, glory to be revered, cherished, and flown high. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump says he wants to change the Constitution to make it a crime to desecrate the flag. That would be like the worst thing in the world that we can do. The flag is basically cloth. It doesn't mean anything. It is a piece of cloth. What means something is civil rights. Civil rights mean something. I want to be treated equal to everybody else. Everybody should be treated equal. What means something is in our country that we have the right to disagree with the way our country is being run. We have a right to say, this ain't right. We have a right to say, I'm going to bring it to your attention. And if that means bringing it to your attention by going down on your knee, and now, by the way, going down on your knee means two things, because not only does it represent what Colin Kaepernick did, it also represents what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd. But you should never, ever, I hope we never get to the day where they make desecrating the flag a crime under the Constitution. It would be a slippery slope. Where does peaceful, where does protest, and where does art? Because there's a lot of artists who use the American flag. Where does it end? All of a sudden artists start getting arrested as well. But to me, the flag has no meaning to it, because it's just a cloth. The song has no meaning to it. It's just a song, the Star Spangled Banner. What has meaning is that we have rights in our country. We have legal rights to say we don't like something. And we have a long history in this country of protesting and changing the way that we live, changing the way that we are ruled, changing our laws by having our voices being heard. Meanwhile, the United States Marine Corps has banned all depictions of the Confederate battle flag at its installations. A Marine administrative message outlined the ban, which would prohibit wearing Marine T-shirts, drinking coffee with mugs that feature the flag on installations. Marine commanders will have to find and get rid of any displays of the flag within workspaces and public areas. No other military branch has announced such a policy, but this is the statement from the Marines. It said the Confederate battle flag has all too often been co-opted by violent extremists and racist groups whose divisive beliefs have no place in our Corps. This presents a threat to our core values, unit cohesion, security, and good order and discipline, and this must be addressed. Now, Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy also signaled their willingness to discuss scrapping Confederate names on forts across the country. I didn't know this, but you've heard of these forts: Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Benning in Georgia, and Fort Hood in Texas. These are huge, huge military installations in the United States of America. Bragg, Benning, and Hood were all Confederate generals. I had no idea. I just actually learned this now. Why are we naming huge military installations in memory of racists who tried to leave our union? Why 150 years later? I don't think it should be called Fort Bragg anymore, and it shouldn't be called Fort Benning, and it shouldn't be called Fort Hood. We got to get to coronavirus too. There's a lot going on. According to statistics from the Johns Hopkins University, there's now 7.1 million people with coronavirus worldwide. The nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he delivered a grim assessment of the devastation brought around the world by the virus, describing coronavirus today as his worst nightmare. I think it's everybody's worst nightmare, not just his. Fauci said in a period of 4 months, it has devastated the whole world, and it is not over yet. An efficiently transmitted disease can spread worldwide in 6 months or a year, but this one took only a month, he said. Now, Fauci made the remarks on the same day that the World Health Organization walked back an earlier assertion. They asserted on Monday that if you have coronavirus, but you have no symptoms, you don't have fever, you don't have a cough, your eyes aren't red, you can't transmit it to somebody else. And now they took that back. The World Health Organization has changed and told us different things on a daily basis. We should wear a mask, we shouldn't wear a mask. If you have coronavirus, but you don't have any symptoms of coronavirus, you can't give it to people. Well, now you can, now you can't. We don't know what to believe from this World Health Organization anymore. I don't know what to believe anymore. Now, parts of the country that had previously avoided being hit hard by the coronavirus outbreak are now tallying record high infections, including Puerto Rico, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Kentucky, New Mexico. All are having high levels of coronavirus infections. Now, health experts worry that these areas may be short of resources because of increasing numbers of coronavirus. And finally, Jamie Stenja, a 103-year-old woman who recently survived a bout with the coronavirus, celebrated not by drinking a Corona Light, but by drinking a Bud Light. Now, 3 weeks ago, Stenja was the first to test positive for coronavirus in the Massachusetts nursing home. She had a low-grade fever. She was moved to a separate ward. She didn't really grasp or understand coronavirus, but she knew she was sick. As Stenja's condition worsened, her granddaughter called to say what they thought were their final goodbyes to her. And when her granddaughter's husband, Adam Gunn, asked whether Stenja was ready to go to heaven, she replied, "Hell yes." But Stenja recovered. She's not ready to go yet. And the staff gave her an ice-cold Bud Light to celebrate something she loves but did not have in a very, very long time. And with that, that is our schmooze. We're going to get to David Moreno very, very shortly. I do have to remind everybody to please, if you like our show, subscribe on YouTube. You will get notified every time we come live. You have no reason not to subscribe. If you subscribe on YouTube and you like and follow us on Facebook, you can join our Brad Squad, greatest group of people ever known to walk on the face of this earth, Brad Squad. And of course, you can also get in our free immigration consultation contest on Instagram at Brad Show Live. You can ask me your question at Real Brad Bernstein. And of course, if you need to call me, you can call us at 1-800-529-5465. We're running late and we got to get to David Moreno. We have a long show today, I guess. So let's get right to something we like to call You Got a Question, I Got an Answer in Pandemic Immigration Questions and Answers. All right, let's see what we have here. I'm going through our Facebook feed right now. Natalie Welch O'Daniel has a question. Hi, Brad. Me again. Can my son file for his citizenship although he's waiting for his green card? I guess what you're asking is he has his 2-year green card, and he's now been waiting over 1 year to remove the conditions. If he's in a bona fide marriage with his spouse, he can. Yes. Shadrich Ease has a question. Hi, Brad. I have a question. My friend's mom came to the United States with a B1, B2 visa, and the son has a 10-year green card. Can he be able to file for a green card for the mom? She's been living in the U.S. for 7 years. No, the son has to be a U.S. citizen to do that. Let's see what else we have here. Jerry Mias with a question. Uncle Brad, I'm petitioning my mother. I'm a U.S. citizen. I did an RFE, but the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines is still closed. What do you think can happen? I think I answered that. We don't know what's going to happen until the embassy opens. Eventually, your mom, I assume, will be able to get a green card. Dante Chili Wright. Hi, Uncle Brad. I'm asking for a friend. If someone married 2 different persons and brought them here over a 20-year period, will there be any problems marrying a third non-immigrant? Next question. How soon after divorce can you remarry without any penalty? You're allowed to fall in love, fall out of love, fall in love, fall out of love, fall in love. Again, that's no problem. But, on the third time petitioning somebody, immigration is just going to be want to question a little bit to make sure that there's U.S. citizens not in the business of marrying people to get green cards. But as long as he can demonstrate that all of his marriages were legitimate, it should not be a problem. Ori Martin, my cousin has withholding. What will it take for him to upgrade his status? Withholding a removal means he's been deported, but they're going to withhold his deportation because his life is in danger if he goes home. He's going to have to show that he's eligible for a green card and reopen his deportation case. It's not about upgrade. It's about reopen the case and prove he's eligible for a green card. And you need a good lawyer for that. Anita Nelson with a question. Hello, Uncle Brad. Please, I have questions. My question is, after our Stokes interview, it's now been 4 months, no decision. Though the officer told us he cannot make a decision, he will bring the case to his supervisor if there's a need to investigate. I think I answered that question as well. And that question was that if you are being investigated, it's never a good thing. Now, we had some questions that were asked on YouTube in previous shows in the comment section by people who were watching after we were done. They just leave the questions in the comment section after we were done live. We promised everybody we would be answering those questions. So let me go through those quickly now. The mom of 4 asked, hi, Brad, my kid's working permit is expired in July. I was wondering if I have to renew the 2 small kids. They're 7 and 9. No, you don't have to. They're not going to work. You got them their social security number. It's not necessary. Although if you want to, you can. It doesn't cost anything. So if you want to, you can. It doesn't hurt. But you have to? No. Judine Roach says, hi, Brad. Is it true that USCIS is waiving some green card interviews? Yes, it is true. Yibasan asked a question. Hi, Brad. Can my husband call USCIS to find out why the delay for my green card? It's been over 18 months since our immigration interview, and 2 immigration officers visited our home since March last year, and we have not heard any news. Thank you for your good work. If 2 immigration officers visited, that means you are under investigation. You calling immigration, you can call immigration, but you calling immigration is going to do nothing. I think when immigration is starting to investigate you, you calling immigration isn't doing anything. I think you should be calling a lawyer. Abdul Alim, I had a deportation for 10-year ban. It will end this November. Unlawful presence. I overstayed my visa. No crime at all. So if winning a diversity lottery, am I have a chance to go back to the USA? You do, but you still need a waiver to return after a prior deportation. So yes, but you would still need a waiver. And the mom of 4 with a second question. Hi, Brad. My daughter went for an interview in February with our son. They said they would send a letter to let her know if she got a green card, but up to now she hasn't received. What should she do at this point? You got to wait 4 months. If it's now more than 4 months, March, April, May, June, wait till the end of June. And if you still haven't heard anything by the end of June, then give me a call. Got to give them at least 4 months. Let's see what's going on our current YouTube feed right now. on our current YouTube feed. Becklem Lacador says, hi, I'm a green card holder and my husband's citizenship holder. He applied for food stamps. Does food stamps affect me when I apply for citizenship? No, it does not. It would affect you if you were applying for your green card, but it would not affect you if you were applying for citizenship. Mike with a question. Hi, Uncle Brad. My I-45 was denied, and they said they revoked my work permit. It expires in December 2020. Can I keep working until the expiration date? Am I also allowed to apply for unemployment? You can keep working. You're working illegally, but you can keep working until somebody stops you. But yes, you're working illegally. Can you apply for unemployment? Why not? You have a social security number, but yes, you are working illegally. Nikrata Michelle. My husband has a pending I-212. That would be a waiver for deportation. Yesterday, we received a refund for the filing fees. The website says it won't affect our process. Have you seen this before? Why did they refund us the money? I have no idea why they refunded you the money. There is a filing fee for the I-212 waiver. I think you need to speak to a lawyer. Me Jalov. Hi, Brad. I just did the I-130 on May 27, 2020. I'm in Florida. How long will it take? I don't know who's sponsoring you, Me Jalov. You got to tell me a little more. Shanti Singh. Hi, question for a close relative. I've lost my place. Does petty theft diversion dismissed case impact I-45? This happened in 2013. Already declared it on the I-45. It affects it for moral character, but if you have one arrest and that's it, and in essence, a diversion program means that your case got dismissed, then you should be okay. Susu with a question. Hi, Brad. I filed my wife's I-130 in August 2018 and our I-45 in January 2019. I'm still waiting on an interview. Is that normal? Well, you filed the adjustment in 2019, so it would be based on when you filed the adjustment. It's not unnormal. It's taking a long time, but it's not unnormal. You may want to call me to see what's going on. It's a year and a half now from the time you filed the adjustment. Kikix, hi, Uncle Brad. My case is at the Department of State F2A category. However, my husband is currently unemployed. Will public charge affect my case? The fact that he collects unemployment doesn't affect the case. The fact that he doesn't have a job may, and you would want to have maybe a second affidavit of support from somebody else. Lola Unstoppable. How long does a motion take to reopen? Years. I hate motions to reopen. I always think you should. My first inclination is every time I hear somebody make a motion to reopen, you should have refiled again. That's usually what I think. But motions to reopen take a very long time, and they're rarely won. Jerry Mias back on Facebook. Uncle Brad, I'm petitioning my mother. I'm a U.S. citizen. I did our RFE, but the U.S. Embassy. Oh, you've asked that question 20 times, Jerry. I've answered it 20 times. Michael McKenzie. Hi, Uncle Brad. How are you doing? Quick question. Do I have to send in my medical report before my interview? No, you do not. You can bring it on the time of your interview. Tonia Guzier Christopher. My cousin came in without inspection. I got married. Immigration told him he has to return to his country. He did. It's going to be 10 next year. When should his wife start filing for him? Now. Let him start filing now. Now, if he got ordered deported, he may need a waiver. But yes, his wife should be filing for him right now. Anthony Sirwell, if an undocumented immigrant is on Medicare, how soon after getting married and also getting off Medicare or Medicaid can the person file for a 2-year conditional green card? It depends. There's a lot. Why would the undocumented immigrant be on Medicare or Medicaid? That if the undocumented immigrant, that was emergency, you had emergency medical problem, I think you need to speak to me. There's no solid answer on that. But if you're on Medicare or Medicaid or your spouse, you're unlikely to get a green card, and it's held against you for 3 years. Let's see what else we have here. Princess Wilson, I hope this question is clear enough. It's been almost a year and a half since I got married. Since the 2-year anniversary of our marriage is almost at hand, how many months before our 2-year anniversary do you think we should file in order to get a 10-year green card instead of the 2-year? I think if you file 6 months before your 2-year anniversary, you would get a 10-year because it takes about 8 or 9 months to get an interview. So an 18-month period of you being married, I think is a good time to file if you really want to get the 10-year and want to avoid the 2-year green card. I understood your question. Uncle Brad, this is Crown Johnny. Uncle Brad, I submit to renew my work authorization. I got acknowledged letter, but 4 months now they haven't sent my work authorization. It may take up to 6 months. It may take up to 6 months. Jennifer Palmer, hi Brad, I have a question. My wife, whoa, my God, Jennifer Palmer with a encyclopedia of a question. Let's see what this is. I have to catch my breath on this one. Brad, I have a question. My wife filed a petition for my son and back in 2018, and she was always consistently been working. In April 2020, my wife's doctor advised her to stop working due to coronavirus because she's a chronic asthma, and her asthma became an issue as she began having asthma attacks. But my wife kept pushing on her way to work until May 2020 when her asthma became uncontrollable, and she finally followed the orders of her doctor, and she took a break from working and stays home. She's still employed by her job and can return when she's ready. She has documentation from her job stating that she's still actively employed, and she has a letter from the doctor stating that she needs time off from work. I've been working since receiving my work permit in January 2019. I'm still employed by the same employer, so I've taken the pleasure of holding down the house in totality as the man should while my wife go to her health together. I've taken all the responsibility of paying the expenses. We are successfully living with no hardships. We are not receiving food stamps, receiving any help. We are stable. So my question is, can my wife taking time off from work to deal with her health affect my case being approved when I go to the interview, though I am working, holding down all the expenses? I think as long as your wife is getting an income and can support you 125% above the poverty level, it doesn't matter whether she's working from home or working in an office. If her income by the time of the interview is less than 125% of the poverty level, then you would need a second affidavit of support. The fact that you're being a man and taking care of the house is wonderful because you're going to need that for the second portion of the poverty guideline test, but you still need a petitioner or a second affidavit of support to prove that they can support you 125% above the poverty level. And with that, I have David Moreno, who must be falling asleep backstage. I want to bring him on now in something we like to call here at Spar and Bernstein, Attorney Insight, Pandemic. All right, David, give me 1 second. I got to get you set up here. 1 second so I can hear you. I got to change some buttons here. Whoops. I got to change some more buttons here. 1 second, David. Give me 1 second while we get you set up. My apologies. I screwed up royally. This one should be muted. This button, I got to mute that button. And let's find the other button to mute. And where is that button? Let's see where that button is. I got to mute this button. Let's find that button, this button, all the different buttons. Where is this? There we go. That's muted. And now we can go to David Moreno, who, let me find where he is. He's not there. He's not there. He's right here. Here he is. Mr. Moreno. You hear me, Mr. Moreno?
Can hear you loud and clear, brother.
All right, very good. All right, so welcome back. Welcome back. Yesterday we talked a lot about what was going on in Minnesota with the 4 cops. For those who don't know, David is an amazing civil rights and litigation attorney. He's a former district attorney in Manhattan. He's a fabulous federal litigator. We were talking about what he thought about the process of what the cops were happening with the cops and the different charges. And you can watch yesterday's show while we talked all about that. But today, David, I want to change the topic a little bit. Sadly, this week we've seen a lot of excessive use of force by the police and the authority figures towards peaceful protesters. The New York Times reported that according to the police and prosecutors, Since last week, more than 2,000 people in New York City were arrested alone, just New York City, on charges like disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, unlawful assembly, assault on a police officer, burglary. Now, what does someone do if they're arrested during a protest?
Well, the first thing, let's back it all the way up. If you're stopped at a protest, or if you're stopped at any time, the advice is going to be the exact same. The first question you should ask is, am I free to leave? If you're free to leave, then you say, I'm exercising my right
By
to
the
leave.
way, David, just if you can lower, we're only seeing you from your chin up. If you can lower your camera a little bit. There we go. You're a big guy. I mean, you look like you just have a head and nothing else. So now, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you're stopped, your first question should be, am I free to leave? If the answer is yes, then go on about your business. If the answer is no, the very next words out of your mouth should be, am I under arrest? If the answer is yes, then the next thing you should say is, I invoke my right to silence. I'd like an attorney. There's no reason to speak to them. You don't have to give DNA. If you're recording or taking photographs at a protest, it's a public place, you're completely within your right to do so.
Are you allowed to take a video of your arrest? What if the cop tells you to shut your phone off?
If the cop tells you to shut your phone off, they can try to allege that what you're doing is interfering with the arrest. But what they cannot do is take your phone and delete a photograph or delete a video or tell you that you need to do so as well. Because
what would your advice be to somebody who's told to stop recording?
My advice would be to say politely and as calmly as possible, please look up the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment, where it states that I actually have a right to do this. And, I know the cops may say, because we know they can tend to be egotistical, some of them, they may get upset, but you're exercising your rights. Whenever you have an interaction with the police in 2020 or in 1980, the main thing you want to do is document as much as possible, right? It's only going to help you. It's either going to, validate or invalidate your arrest, or it's going to give you supporting evidence one way or another. You should be getting the police officers involved, their badge numbers, their names. If there are witnesses involved or around, you need to, try to write down as much as possible. Get the witnesses' names and numbers if possible. Give the witnesses that are there, if they're taking you an arrest, tell them your number so they can let someone know where you are. And then you're always entitled to a local call. That call should be to an attorney. Forget about calling your girlfriend.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No, I was going to say, forget about calling, your loved one. Call an attorney. That attorney will get in touch with your loved one, just so you make sure your rights are protected, because that's what's the most important at that moment.
I tell everybody that they should always have the number of a good lawyer in their telephone. Mm-hmm. And you see the telephone number scrolling down below our screen, the 1-800-529-5465. Everybody who's watching should have that number saved in their telephone, because you don't know what's going to happen these days. And that number gets you right to our office. We even had somebody call, I think, Friday night at 10 o'clock and who got arrested. And you got them out of jail by Saturday morning, and even the charges dismissed, right?
That's correct.
People can call us whenever.
Yeah, I'm available. Most of my clients have my cell. If you call the number below, it'll come to me anyway. But if anyone needs my number, just reach out.
Now, what if somebody was arrested this past week after the city curfew? Does that affect the charges? Did they do something more criminally wrong? Is it a crime to be out after curfew?
I mean, the curfew laws are something that's going to be governed a little bit differently than your normal penal law codes. You'll be in violation of a temporary statute, which no longer exists. As a defense attorney, I'm going to argue that the curfew was unconstitutional to begin with. That's going to be something that's going to be litigated later. You're not going to be exposed to any heightened penalty because you were the penalty, especially with all of the evidence that's come out over the last few days and over the last week that has showed some unlawful practices on the police, where they were funneling people into certain areas and delaying them from getting out of the city.
Now, what if someone's injured by the police? We've seen lots of terrible acts of aggression by the police throughout these protests. What happens if you're arrested and injured?
Yeah, well, if you're arrested and injured, obviously you come to the right place, because we do handle civil rights cases as well as criminal cases. If the police use a level of force that's going to be more than necessary or for longer than necessary, same as always, document everything. Document the way, keep a log. Whenever you're released, or even if you're still in custody, on this day at this time, the bruises on my wrist look like this. I take a picture, write it down, put it in a note section of your phone that also timestamps it to create that record. Seek medical treatment, obviously something that you want to do. And if there are any witnesses as well, try to preserve as much as possible that's going to support your side of the allegation. Now, if you are injured as a result of your interaction with the police, call an attorney, file a CCRB complaint, which stands for Civilian Complaint Review Board. You can Google that, New York CCRB. You'll file a complaint, and that's something that their interior office will use to discipline them, take away vacation days, and etc. I know that's not what we're out to do and out to accomplish, but guess what? It bolsters your actual personal injury, your civil rights lawsuit, because it shows that not only do you want, to get paid for what happened, you want the police officer that did it to be punished for what they did, so they know that the behavior is wrong. So that's the tribunal in which they'll be punished. If you file a lawsuit civilly, there's nothing that's going to happen to the actual law enforcement officer. The city is going to end up paying it, and frankly, the taxpayers are going to end up paying it. So you should really do both.
Now, the Wall Street Journal, they reported that resolving police misconduct cases has surged for big cities in recent years. This was even before the protests. Now, how does somebody sue the city or sue the police department for monetary damages? Do you have to be injured? Because we talked about what if you're injured.
Yeah.
But what happens if there's no injury? You just get arrested.
No.
Is there still lawsuits?
Yeah, there are still lawsuits. There are a number of different things that can happen. You don't actually have to be injured. There are several different causes of action you can bring that involve a law enforcement contact. We have excessive force, which is what we just spoke about. Police officer uses force that's more than necessary. We have false arrest. That's a situation where you're arrested and charged, but your charges have been dismissed at a later date by the DA's office, right? So essentially, Brad, you're arrested today for protesting, and you hire a great attorney, and 2 weeks later, we go to court and all the charges are dropped. Within 90 days of that date, Brad, what we can do is we can file a lawsuit against the city of New York for false arrest, right? They violated your rights, and the longer amount of time that you spend in custody, if you're traumatized, if you need mental health treatment as a result of that, those are going to be things that strengthen your case. The other charges you can have is
what would prove it was a false arrest?
Literally, the fact that the case got dismissed is enough.
And they're dismissing almost all of these cases, correct?
Yes, is enough to bring the case forward.
So
now,
anybody who got arrested, let me just make this clear.
Yeah.
Anybody who got arrested in New York and their case was during the protest and their case was dismissed potentially has a false arrest case.
That's potential, yes. The things that will support that are the underlying factors that surround your arrest. What were you doing just prior to being arrested? What was the conduct alleged? Now, if the conduct alleged doesn't meet the burden of what each individual statute of what you were charged with contemplates, then obviously you're going to have enough to meet your burden to file a suit for a false arrest claim. How your injury is going to be determined is based on how much time you were actually in law enforcement custody and how much your liberty was restricted as a result of this false arrest.
Now, last Thursday night, let's add a little more to this. In New York City, habeas corpus was suspended at the request of the New York Police Department by New York City criminal judge James Burke. And this allowed the police to detain people more than 24 hours. People who got arrested in the protest, you have to be arraigned within 24 hours and released, or bonds or bail set. And this allowed the police to hold people more than 24 hours without an arraignment, without setting bail or a bond or anything. Now, why did Judge Burke do this? Or maybe you don't know why he did this, but is this legal? And what are the ramifications for people's criminal cases, if they're actually having charges brought against them, or if ultimately their case was dismissed, how does that affect their case for false arrest?
Yeah, well, first off, the actions of Judge Burke were unconstitutional. What he passed is something that would violate the very structure of what our Constitution guarantees us as protections as human beings in this country. So thankfully, that has been since overturned and would have no effect on anyone that was arrested during that time without charges. Where it will come into play is exactly where you mentioned right now, Brad. It will only go to strengthen a false arrest claim, because now you're in custody with no actual justification for why you're in custody, and now you're in custody for an extended period of time. And guess what? It's during a pandemic in the city where there are the most concentrated cases of COVID-19. And then add to the fact that most likely a minority and the higher rates of you passing away as a result of this pandemic. As a plaintiff's attorney in that case, I'd have a field day trying to highlight what the damages are that you're entitled to.
Now talk to us about the process of, I got arrested, the case was dismissed because they're dismissing most of the cases. Talk to us about the process that somebody would go through to sue the police for a civil rights violation.
The number 212-227-8933 or 800-529-54.
But what would happen after they call that number and meet with you? What is the process of going through?
Excuse me?
What after? Okay, they call our telephone number. They meet with you. What is the what did they expect? What is their process that they would go through?
They'll expect for us to pick up, schedule a call over the pandemic. Most likely be a Zoom call. I'd want to go over all the actual details of the arrest. Any supporting evidence, documentation should be sent over to us right away. What I would then do after analyzing the case is either I accept it or reject it based on the merits. I would then file a notice of claim with the city within 90 days of the actual event that took place. And what that notice of claim would do is put the city on notice that we're alleging that something they did violated our client's rights. Once that notice of claim is received, it would be acknowledged by the city, and there'll be a deposition scheduled, which we would prepare you for to show and offer our statements of the facts. From there, with the city, there's going to be a lot of these claims, I'd imagine, as a result of normal misconduct, as well as, the heightened level of misconduct that we've seen over the last few weeks. It'll be a pretty drawn out process, but in theory, you will be entitled to monetary damages. And frankly, one of my goals in this time frame is to push these cases as much as possible, to make an example, to make the city pay. So that way, when they feel it in their pockets, they know that what they're doing is wrong.
Now is it absolute? I know it is, but you can confirm this.
Of course.
It's absolutely free to speak with you. There is no consultation fee to speak to you if you got arrested, if you have a civil rights violation or anything of that nature.
It's absolutely free to speak to me.
And they call which number again?
My cell number,
the one you see on the bottom, right?
89, and the main number is 800-529-5465.
All right, David Moreno, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. You waited a while, so I'm sorry about that.
All good,
so thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you. Take it easy.
All right, thanks. Okay. All right, so let's get back to our immigration questions and see what else is happening here with our immigration questions. Let me just get back my screen with the immigration questions here. We'll finish up. On YouTube, let's go back to YouTube. See if we have any more strangle. No, I hope we don't strangle anybody more. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm going crazy now. Stragglers. I'm saying strangle. Stragglers. Boy, I'm getting tired. See if any more stragglers with immigration questions. Shanti Singh, does 5-year good moral character required for green card application, or is it just for citizenship? No, you need good moral character for green card application. For adjustment of status, you need good moral character. If you're applying at the U.S. Embassy in another country, you do not need good moral character, but for adjustment of status, you do. Lawrence Peg Sanjin has a question. Hi, Brad. I got my green card. Do I need to go to SSA to update my status from having the work authorization. Yes, you can go and they will take off of your green card valid with EAD authorization only, and then you'll just get a new Social Security card with the same number, but it'll have no emblem that says only valid with work authorization. So yeah, you should do that. Nicole Hernandez with a question. Hi, Uncle Brad, bless up. I have two questions for my friend. One, her I-751 was transferred to the National Benefit Center in December 2019. Does the new office have jurisdiction? It means the documents are at the field office. It means they're holding the application to send it to the field office. Two, she filed the I-751 in November. Can she submit an application to file for her son in Jamaica, being that she's a permanent resident, not a citizen? She absolutely can file for her son as long as the son is unmarried. Tonya Gunny Christopher with a question. My cousin had marriage but came in without inspection and was told he had to return to his country. He did. It's going to be 10 years next year. When should his wife start filing? Now, as long as he didn't have a deportation order. Let's see what else. Anthony Sirwell has a follow-up question. What if an undocumented person got Medicaid or Medicare but never used it? Will that affect his chances? No, if you didn't use it, it would not affect your chances. I mean, it would not be a problem. It's only if you use it. And finally, the last question of the day, Mustafa Elsmori with a pretty long question here. I live in San Francisco and I've been under DACA. I got married and filed for the I-130, but we got divorced after 10 months. We live together and own no community assets together except for a credit card. She then calls my lawyer and pulls out the I-130, then sends me an uncontested summary dissolution divorce. Is there anything I can do to complete my case for the green card? Our marriage is bona fide and I have strong evidence. Unless there was abuse, extreme emotional abuse or physical abuse, there's nothing you can do. So if there was extreme emotional abuse or physical abuse, then yes, you can absolutely file an abuse case. But other than that, you can't force anybody to do a immigration case. So then at that point, you would have to start again, start the divorce. All right. Let's see. All right, a couple more on YouTube. Why not? Luther Thunder, my mom's a citizen. If she files for me, can I be issued a work permit? Not if you're over 21. And Marin S., hello, Uncle Brad. It's been over 18 months since I applied for my I-751. My green card was extended for 18 months, and now it's over. What do you advise me to do? Go get another stamp at immigration. When immigration is open, it should be open in where you are. Get a stamp in your passport, and then you should get some sort of interview within the next 6 months before the 2-year anniversary. Green 21778 got an RFP for contemporaneously registered birth certificate. How do I show proof the petition for my I-130 F2B daughter? I assume, Green, that you are the father. You're filing that you are the father. As a father, you have to show that you are the biological father of the child. Plus, you have a bona fide parent-child relationship. If you do not have a contemporaneously registered birth certificate, you're going to have to take a blood test to prove you're the father. And you also have to show proof that you've had a relationship with the child. You're probably going to need help with that. Lisa Bling Rose with an advertisement called David and Moshe, anytime. There for personal injury. Thank you very much. And let's go see what we have. Let's go see what we have for our comments of the day. Let's see what we have. Comments of the day. And the comments of the day are Javel Finnegan. The Brad Squad is the best team to be with at evening time. Thank you very much, Javel. Share Topaz. Squad up, Brad and team. I so love what you're doing. Thank you. And Missy and Yamuki, the best show in the world. Thank you very much. And Spider-Man, Uncle Brad is now news anchor with real news and analysis. No need to watch TV. Always wait for Brad's intelligent show. Thank you very much. Petronia Suarez, hip, hip, hooray for the best immigration lawyer, Uncle Brad, to the flipping world. Thank you very much. I appreciate it all. Don't forget, if you like our show, like all those people who left our comments of the day, please subscribe on YouTube, follow and like us on Facebook. Of course, tomorrow's Hump Day, so you don't want to miss all our Hump Day news as well. And also, we will be picking out of our scratchy old hat the winner of the Brad Show Live free consultation giveaway. You can find Bouncing Brad on at Brad Show Live. and still have time to enter if you do that tonight. And finally, of course, you can see the number scrolling below if you need to reach me to have a consultation. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all tomorrow. Thanks again.